Breaking news, we have Jason Station reporting live for Channel 5. The patch notes has just hit, and we are here to live report it. This is the first reaction seeing it. I have not peeked, I have not seen any spoilers on Twitter, so let's dive into it. Alright guys, we're gonna click on the link. 7 minutes late, I was watching a show, so I missed this first 7 minutes, but nonetheless, we are here. I am expecting a big patch. I'm super excited. We're gonna go in. No fear. Card updates. We're kicking off the year with a large set of card updates. I already saw Poppy, they're changing Pop. That's insane. In addition to our usual meta-analysis and surveys, we experimented with opening direct lines, yada yada. They did really well with that. I really liked how they post on Twitter and Reddit, just asking for feedback. That was really cool. But a number of dominant decks being hit, including Poppy Centric, as well as GB Sedge and Scion Draven. Poppy again? Generally aiming to improve meta, we're targeting Frogyard a number of card usability buffs. Interesting. Just Frogyard is kind of curious, but let's see. Poppy. 4 cost, 3... Oh, okay, so they're giving Poppy a +1 buff. So back to a 3-3, it was a 4-3, then it was a 3-3, and then it was a 2-3? I'm forgetting how it worked, but Poppy back to a 3-3 seems fine. There were some cases where this is pretty massive as far as things go, because Poppy, it's only 2 to 3 that you really, or like 2 and 3 health or attack units that you're really wanting to buff. Anything over 4 is generally not really played in these Poppy decks. So this is like a pretty small but usually impactful like change. I assume they mean a 4 cost 5/5. They're increasing the 4 cost. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, wait. Okay, so what the heck? I don't know what's going on here. There feels like a little bit of typos, but it looks like Poppy is going to be a 5-mana champion now. Interesting. Okay. So this should be a 4-mana 2/3, and this should be a 4 cost 3/4. But they're increasing the cost Poppy back to 5, and then keeping the 4/4 stat line, which is interesting because I would think that's a nerf. Because the fact that Poppy comes down a whole turn later is definitely a lot slower than simply just buffing up slightly weaker units. And it looks like they recognize that Poppy's still fairly dominant presence within the meta, which I don't necessarily agree with. I'm curious as to why they're doing this, because Poppy's only being played in like Battle Tree pretty much, where it is still, a fairly strong card. But this specific nerf, which I presume to be a nerf, is rather bizarre. And I don't quite understand why they're doing this. I don't think it'll really change how Poppy is played. Maybe even Battle Tree no longer wants to play Poppy. This is definitely a slight weak to Battle Tree for sure. Being able to just mitigate their beatdown plan is definitely very interesting. I'm quite surprised at this, and I think this is actually quite impactful, but there's only like 1 or 2 decks that actually runs Poppy, and that's going to be a huge impact to them. Scion. Reducing its base stat down by 1, which means that its overall is 8/6 and an 8/4. I think this was a pretty I don't want to say it's an expected buff. I think Scion was still very strong and required a little bit more of a brush up, but I think this is a path that was suggested in some Ruben streams or just around what I've been hearing around on Twitch and things like that. So reducing Scion's attack down by 2 definitely caps a little bit of its power level. The fact that you could attack with a Scion, and then even if you didn't die or rally with it, you can just burn your opponent out. Being able to have 2 less attack is a little bit of a good change for sure. Slowing down Scion just a tad, not slowing down Scion's game plan overall, but just slowing down its ability to just burn you out after turn 7. Again, I still think Scion is a very strong card here. This change is definitely not really going to impact the strength of Scion that much, but it might give your opponents 1 extra turn to kind of end the game. So I think this was pretty expected. I like to see the change to Scion because I think he is still incredibly strong as far as champions go, and just being able to come down a little bit on the attack is definitely a good change. Okay, so Gangplank, I think this was already pre-mentioned, but just -1 health. Ash. Whoa! you frostbitten 4 enemies. So I like what they're doing here, right? So the past 3 were just nerfs, but now here are the buffs, right? So Ashe going up to 4 definitely makes her a little bit faster. Although I'm not sure if that was what's necessarily holding back Frostbite decks as a whole. I think a lot of the other issues with why Ashe sort of disappeared from the meta is not particularly pertaining to her ability to level up. It was mostly about the mid-range decks that just had a lot of value and could just outgrind you. Whereas this change, I don't really think addresses that unless there's other changes within Ashe decks that make it stronger, or within the decks that really really beat down on Ashe, like the Banner City decks, which I do presume we'll see. But I like just, playing around with these like small buffs, even if they're deserved or not deserved. Just small things like this just really like bolster experimentation, which is always good. Maybe people see this change and start playing Ashe a little bit more, even if Ashe doesn't turn out to be the strongest champion. I think this overall just gives people a little bit of hope to experiment, and maybe something actually blossoms out of it. So moving on, they're giving Trundle's health back? Why? What? So for all these who don't know, Trundle used to be a 5 mana 4/6. And then he was so strong that he was reverted to a 5 mana 4/5. And now they're giving his point of health back? There's no reason for this change. This change is overly over the top. It is aimed to just make Trundle decks more playable, but that was never really the issue with Trundle. Straight up nerf to Trundle, just becoming a 4/6 stat stick can pretty much just block down anything now. So definitely a very, very solid card into like a lot of mid-range piles. This 1 extra health total is going to be huge. I don't really understand why they did it, but again, so if I compare the buff to Trundle versus the buff to Ashe, I think the buff to Ashe is just a little bit more of a splash. It's just like here you can have a little bit buff and see what's up, but this Trundle re-update back to 6 health, this is bizarrely unnecessary to me. I don't understand this, but Frogyard, I guess, right? Alright guys, Anivia, ooh, 1+1/+1 over the board. Again, I think this is just a small minor buff, very similar to Ashe, in the same sense that Anivia never really had a problem with just like her stats being too low. Like, you always wanted the base level to die, and then you'd always want to just resummon Anivia as level 2. Now, once you had like some rekindlers and a harrowing and like 4 Anivias on board, her stat line really didn't matter at that point. You'd still like require the same amount of turns to probably end the game, so I don't really see this being too impactful. But again, overall, Frogyard, slight buff, good for the card, good for the region. Kindred, ooh, from a 5 mana 4/4 to 4 cost 4/3. Interesting. Kindred getting a mana reduction is definitely something that a champion like this really needed. I'm glad they didn't make like a 4 mana 4/4. Because then that might have been a little bit over the edge, but 3 health is still quite removable, especially in Shadow Isles. You don't really have any protection tools. Maybe I would have liked to see this as a 4 mana 4/4. I wouldn't mind if it just like became like too strong just for a little bit and had to then go back to a 4 mana 4/3. But being 3 health is still quite vulnerable. Get Excited, Buster Shot, and then any of the removal that did 4 as well, right? A box, Grasp of the Undying. There's a lot of spells that like deal 3, and Kindred definitely needs that survivability to really get anything out of it. And so this, as welcoming as a mana reduction to this, 3 health is a little bit low. I'm a little bit skeptical about that. But I hope to see Kindred being played a little bit more, because this was definitely one of my favorite cards when it was released. It's really cool to see that getting a little bit more love. Maokai, what in the world? Effect triggers on playing another ally. Effect triggers on summoning another ally. Whoa. Okay. That's something impactful. For sure. This speeds up Maokai quite heavily. Because now you can synergize with like spells that summon allies, right? Instead of having to play. So like one of Maokai's weakness was playing on turn 4. You couldn't really play anything else to synergize with it unless you had like a 0 cost unit. But now you can summon like like I don't know, like any of the ephemeral cards from SI. You can do like sapling toss. You can do like a lot of things, and this could just be like a burst blocker, especially with sapling toss. A little bit of weird synergy that I don't think would really impact the champion much, but like you can sapling toss into your opponent's attack turn and suddenly just have two burst blockers ready for the next turn. It's kind of cute. It gives Maokai a little bit more defensibility. Maybe sapling toss is actually a considerable card to be run. But kind of cute. Definitely speeds up Maokai a little bit more. Maybe not so much in deep because you don't really have summon effects within the deep archetype. But I could see Maokai having a little bit better success outside of specifically deep, and this could be a little bit interesting. Oh, I see Darius as well. Oh, Lord. Darius, 6 health. Ooh, 6 mana, 6/6 overwhelm. Jesus. Wow. Okay. It's interesting. Definitely, again, you always have the comparison to Scion, but I think a better comparison to this now is sort of looking into Gangplank. Gangplank came down as a 5 mana, 6/5, and that was already, or rather, Gangplank came down as a 5 mana 6/6. That was definitely very, very hard to deal with, even on turn 6. And Darius coming down as a 6/6 overwhelm, albeit it doesn't really have the same impact as Gangplank. The 6/6 health standpoint is very, very strong, and we've seen it in the past with Trundle as well, being a 4/6, Hecarim being like a 5/6, etc., etc. Hecarim a little bit less because his support is not really there, but nonetheless, Darius 6/6, again, this is probably not as impactful just because this is still mostly outshadowed by a card like Scion. But so I don't really see this having too much of an impact overall. New players are reveling in the fact that they get 2 free copies of Darius, and now it's a 6/6 stat stick. Definitely a really cool update. I do like small updates like this that just boost Darius's power level. Again, I don't really think this is the change that really pushes Darius over the top, but it's cool to see overall. Maybe we'll see a little bit returning in some of the more aggressive decks. Diana. Nightfall, give me Challenger this round, Nightfall, or when you activate Nightfall. Ooh, interesting. Okay, cool. So basically this is just Diana has Nightfall or Challenger every round, pretty much, which is cool. Diana having the weakness of only having Challenger one turn was definitely a little bit of a weakness to the deck, but now having a little bit more control overall, just like Pale Cascading after you play Diana, giving her Challenger again is just really, really key, and just maintaining a little bit of board parity, which is cool as a card, and definitely capitalizes more on her Challenger even before she levels, which is cool. Although I don't think Diana was too hard to level, especially after you already play her. So you play her once, and then by the next attack turn, maybe she's already leveled up. It's definitely a possibility, so this is just a small change. Maybe gets 1 extra Challenger attack within a Nightfall deck. Maybe in other decks that aren't specifically Nightfall aggro, this will have a little bit more of a board control kind of card style, which is cool and all. But this is just a little bit neat change. Definitely supports decks that Diana is in outside of particularly Nightfall a little bit more, but welcome change overall. Whoa! Xerath getting 1 health, holy moly. That's huge. That's huge. For the same reason that 3 health Kindred might still get shut down a little bit more, 4 health Xerath is a freaking monster for sure. Like, I feel like Xerath was on the brink of being strong enough to actually be very, very good, and I think this is going to be close to pushing it over the top, especially because it's now 4 mana 4/5/1 leveled. Whoo, that's a Yeti. Or an Elnuk if you play Legends of Runeterra. Damn. I really think this is very impactful. This is huge. This is like Trundle levels of like that 1 health mattering. I think Xerath actually has a good chance to be meta in this patch, which I think is really cool. Because I really think this 1 health stat line increase is going to be huge for it. And I think Xerath is already pretty strong with his effect being able to deal 3 to the weakest enemy after a landmark is destroyed. I think this has a really, really solid chance of being meta. And then I don't know if this had any different ability now triggers on destroying a landmark. I don't really know what it was beforehand. I think it was on a sleigh or something. Whatever it is, less of a change. I don't really mind, or I don't really see an impact of this. I don't really play Sundis, so I don't really even know what it was beforehand. But Xerath, wow, Xerath getting a health buff. Okay, so this was expected. Battle City Mayor now only affects the first unit you play each round, so you only get one discount per turn, essentially. Um, uh, I don't hate this change. Um, this does slow down the card a lot. I personally would have liked to see it just not manifest the card, but still keep up its ability to just act as a really big engine. Only be able to discount one now makes it a little bit more awkward on curve. Because usually, like, but in the past, you play it on turn 3, and then you play, like, Telescope into Poppy, and, or, like 2 3 mana units on turn 4. So this definitely slows down its ability quite a bit. Um, it's actually really insane because now I can't play like Telescope plus like a 4 mana unit or like an Aloof Traveler. Like you can't play Telescope into Aloof on turn 4, or you can't play any other 2-drop into into like Aloof or any of the other following kind of combinations like that. Like once you play Telescope, you can only play like a 3-drop afterwards, and there's not really many 3-drops you want to play. Now you can't even chain like Telescopes, you can't even chain like your 2 mana cards. This is really impactful to the card. I'm a little bit shocked of this. It definitely is a much bigger nerf than it comes off, because this is definitely one of the regions and one of the cards that you can play multiple cards each round and benefit heavily from this. So this is going to slow down a lot of decks that do want to run this card heavily, very heavily. 4/4, whoa, okay. So people were expecting a 4/5. They come down with a 4/4. I think there's just a really lot of negativity towards this card. 6 mana 4/4 Shell Folk. Is this still playable? They didn't change anything fundamental about this card. And so I think that this is still going to be very strong. Being able to remove it's a lot easier. That sucks. You can't block with it anymore realistically. But I think that in the decks that this really mattered, or in the decks that actually wanted to use this, it was definitely for the effect more so than its stat line, because this was mostly just like a back row unit. Sometimes you get to attack, apply a little bit of pressure, but most decks just needed it to generate a little bit more value over the top, and that doesn't really change what the card does overall. A lot of decks will still need to answer this on site. You'll still probably end up still mini-morphing this when it's played, so its health total doesn't really matter. For some regions that it does matter in are specifically like the DO4 regions, so Ravenous Spear, what's Black Spear, Ravenous Flock, Harpoon even from Plunder. So it does die to a few more things. I think specifically going under the 5 health stat line is huge for Plunder. Or any deck that just like runs Harpoon, because now the breakpoint is a lot lower. So having a little bit less survivability is huge for this card, but it ended up still being a backline unit, and if you just pop off like a Trinket Trader, like a Time Trick, or something like that, you still gain immediate value off of that. And in some decks, they can't even remove it in one action, so like against like a Noxus deck, they have to like ping it and then play like Flock, which, you know, it gives you the opportunity to play pranks or other cards to generate value. So I still believe this is still a very strong card. But again, its survivability does get hit quite a bit. Lecturing Yordle. It's just one on attack. Okay, I like this. This card was definitely on the cusp of being very like too strong, and this is a good change. So now it only works on attack instead of on summon. You can't really play this on your defensive turns and just like get a free dart. So this card is definitely a lot less of a threat, generating 1 dart overall. Definitely helps out the decks that it was really oppressive into, like Lee Sin. So just getting a few less pings here and there will drastically reduce the power level of this card, which is cool, because this card was definitely very strong. Wait, what? They're nerfing Harpoon? Whoa, what? Out of nowhere. Harpoon goes from 3 mana to 4 mana? This is a big shocker to me. I am curious. I'm very curious as to why they did this. Potentially because they nerfed Yordle and Shellfolk, they wanted to nerf one of the better removal cards into it. Like, this is huge. I don't get this necessarily. I don't think Harpoon was a problem overall. Maybe they felt it was just a little bit too efficient for what it was supposed to do. But I'm very shocked. Interesting. I didn't expect this. I think the decks that'll still play this will still play this, but it just slows them down overall, which is interesting. I didn't really expect this, but I guess they thought it was a problem. Interesting. Hit that stairs. Deal 3. Whoa. And then voices. What does this do now? Top 5 cards? Interesting. So they wanted to buff Frogyard overall, and this is the direction that they're wanting to go for it. Seems kind of interesting. If that stairs dealing 3, so this is just Ice Quake on a stick without the minus attack, which is interesting. I don't think if that stairs saw much play, even in like decks that already capped out on Ravine and Avalanches. They didn't even go to Ice Quake, and if that stairs is basically now Ice Quake on a stick, right? Will that make it see play? I'm not sure. Just because most Frogger decks or like SI Frogger decks are already very efficient. This was mostly played just to obliterate landmarks in like a peak deck or something like that. So I don't really see how this change will impact it that much. It's just like a cute little splash. It makes it a little bit better. But 2 to 3 is a really impactful change. Just like between Mystic Shot and Get Excited, that 2 to 3 mana jump or damage jump is really big. I'm not sure if that will change what decks want to play this stat card, but for the decks that do play it, they're happy to see this. Voices, this card was never played, but it gets a buff to draw up to 5 now, which is cool and all. I'm happy to see this. I did like this card a lot. I tried it out in like Field of Mina. And other sort of ramp decks. For the ramp decks that will want to play this now, which I'm still not sure depending on how fast the meta is, but if it slows down, I could see this card being a little bit better, being able to tutor out just a little bit more. Iceborne Legacy Burst. Oh my god, these guys are mad. Yeah, this card is cute now. It's actually playable now because that slow, I think it was just unplayable. I think it actually like makes sense from a gameplay perspective for this to be burst, or at least like to be, wait, it's burst. You could play it on combat. Whoa. I don't know why this isn't focus instead of burst, because it seems bizarre to be able to play it during combat and benefit from it. But huge nerf to the card, or sorry, huge buff to the card. Maybe this will see more play. Being burst is still bizarre to me, but curious and all. 3/4 Rhyme Tusk. Cute. Ash didn't want to play this card before. Maybe this is better in some decks. The survivability, again, this 3 to 4 health change, Xerath, is like Xerath is going to be big. I don't know if this will help the card overall, but it's cool and all. If you behold a Poro now, draw a Poro. Ooh. Okay, so before you had to have a Poro in play, but now if you simply behold a Poro, you can draw a Poro, which is good. So imagine like you didn't play Poro turn 1, but then you drew into a Poro on turn 2, and then you just played this instead. It's a cool little buff. Poros is already probably like pretty polarizing the way it is. I don't think this necessarily changes how it functions, but it's a cool change. I like how they actually use Behold nowadays. Chump Wump to 4/4. Whoa. Rex to 4/4 can trigger 6 times. Holy. So like I like this direction of these changes now. These are just like small changes within different regions, different sort of archetypes that just like, you know, buff the power level very, very slightly, right? Chump bumping a 4/4, no one saw this coming, but it's cute. I don't think this card is still, maybe it's actually playable now, but there's just so few decks that actually want to play it. It's kind of cool though. Rune X 6 times, kind of big, honestly. Coral Creatures 1/3, interesting. Wow, these changes are just so like splashed across different regions, different archetypes, and sort of different cards. Honestly, didn't kind of expect these. But Coral Creature's main problem is that it has 1 attack rather than has 2 health. Like if this was a 2/2 attune, I think that'd be really powerful. Being a 1/3 attune for 2 is still probably a little bit behind on just how it wants to work. Not many decks even want to run this sort of card. So I still see this running into the same issues that it had before. But again, cute nerf. I don't think this is very relevant. It's much less relevant than like Ruined Rex, but like you have to draw 6 cards now. Still kind of difficult. So interesting changes. Ascended rises 6. Krina to an 8/8. What? Krina's issue was also never its stat line. Although 8/8 now makes it feel better if you roll this off of like concurrent timelines or something like that. I'm gonna skip over this Extended's Rise, for reasons. But again, like this was more just if did you hit 3 cards or did you hit 5 cards rather than its stat line. So I don't really see this being a major change. Barkeep Alley 3/3 now. Oof. You can now create cards outside of your regions. Interesting, fun little change, cute little card. Hopefully some people have fun with this card. I probably won't, but it's a fun little change. Buried Sundisk. Whoa. Summon. Whoa. What a buff. And to Ascended's Rise now. Vengeance change. Oh my god. So I kind of looked down on this, but now that you just get Sundis for free, that's huge. The main issue with Sundis is you're pretty much like a tempo deck, but on turn 1 you just play 0 tempo. Sort of like the questline issues within Hearthstone, whereas if you played a quest on turn 1, same if you played Sundis on turn 1, you just fall behind on tempo. And having this summon from your deck, wow, that's huge. And in combination with Ascended's Rise, wow, that's kind of sick. Like, Mono Stream definitely got a little bit of a buff this expansion. 6 cost Vengeance, what in the world? Wow, okay. They just straight up said that, huh? They wanted the removal to be slightly better, and they just gave 1 man off of Vengeance. Kind of big. Definitely a lot better. Now you feel less bad about Vengeancing like a 4 mana unit. It definitely helps out in cases, because I think what we've been seeing is as the meta's been progressing, the units that are bigger threats are often cheaper between like the 3 to 4 to 5 mana range, and now Vengeance having a 1 less cost to it makes that disparity a little bit less, because now you don't feel like you're so bad Vengeancing like a 3 mana Nami or something. So Vengeance going down in mana definitely makes it a little bit better. You can start Vengeancing Pantheon earlier, Shell Folks, things like that. Now makes it a little bit less disparity, which is really cool. And like this is what we like think about when we want like removal to be buffed, right? Something very similar to this, making the mana disparity of removal to the units that you use it on a little bit less. Golden Crush Ball, not mech. Will that make French Fries Adaptatron 3000 better? Maybe. Like, imagine this card with like tough, elusive. It's just stat line is just too poor. I don't see how this makes a big difference. It's something thematically it probably should have had this whole time, but now they actually see a need to have this as a mech, or a tech rather. So I can see this being cool. Hidden Pathways to 6, I think this made sense. Being what was a 3 mana draw 2 for very 0 condition at all was definitely very powerful. So now being a 4 mana draw 2 is much more in line. But that's all the changes. What do we have here? Champion skins. Who is this? This is Trundle? That's kind of cute. And then what is this? Elise? Oh, interesting. Elise plus Spiraling? Whoa, that's so cool. So Elise and I really like the direction that they're going with this. They're starting to change cards arts directly linked to champions. So if you saw recently with the Santa Poro, like the Poro that came out, the Mighty Poro that came out of it had like a Santa hat on it. Now Ice Pillar has its own skin, Spiraling has its own skin, and then what's this? Scion. So Scion level 1, 2, and then returned, really cool. Gnosis 1, 2, 3, really cool. Malphite. Maokai plus Sapling. See, like, I really like the direction they're going, right? They're starting to splash other things, but overall these card arts look really sick. But that looks like to be all of the changes. Let's just see if there's any like bug fixes that are actually sort of relevant. Users have to grab multiple cards at once, only the first unit will be selected. I don't really know what that means. Wouldn't play, sure. Fix an issue where the opponent arsenal cards would be granted random keyword when the player destroys an enemy landmark. I see. Interesting. I didn't know that was a bug. I didn't know that was a bug. Oracle Eye, yada yada. Fix an issue where the opponent's view of voiceover, fix the visual bug, sure. Flavor, sure. We're gonna slap by wrongly obliterated after level 2 Viego kills an enemy champion their on start. Interesting. Fix an issue where removing challenger from a non-committed challenging unit will not break the challenger state. From a non-committed challenging unit. Fix an issue where removing challenger from a non-committed challenging unit would not break. Non-committed. I'm not smart enough to know what this means, but if it means what I think it means, that's kind of weird, but I don't think it is. So I'm sorry, I can't really explain on that, but fix an issue where chrono breaks created by level 2 icons are missing keyword icons, sure. Fix an issue where true is not returning or returned when recalling, I see. Fix a visual bug, few bugs, UI. Okay, it's not much, but overall changes. I was not honestly expecting a little bit more, but they did hit a lot of the Bandle City cards, or it's like at least some, you know, hidden pathways got hit. Mayor got hit, Lecturing Aura got hit, Curious Shellfolk got hit. But honestly, I was expecting way more changes. It's not like it's going to be a letdown or anything. They definitely did a lot. Kindred is very happy. Trundle is extremely happy. Poppy's sad. Scion is a little sad, but not very sad. Gangplank was already there. Ash is a little bit happier. Trundle is just like... Trundle's cashing it in, man. Trundle is... Whew, what a stat stick. This might be a problem. We'll see, we'll see. Anivia, a little happy. Kindred, definitely very happy. 3 health being a little bit unfortunate, but... Oh well. Maokai, quite happy. You might see more Maokai outside of Deep, which is really cool. Darius, a bit happy. Diana, a little happy. Xerath, really, really happy. I'm really excited to see what comes out of Xerath. Bandle City overall has got a little bit of hits. I don't know why Harpoon got hit. I'm interested why that Stairs got hit, like buffed. Voice is cute. Iceborne Legacy, really cute. I don't know where this is going to be relevant, but this is kind of cute. Little happy, little happy, little happy, little happy, little happy. Ooh, but Mono Shrima, definitely very happy. Karina, I don't really see this being very impactful. Kind of big for Mono Shrima as overall. I don't know if this suddenly just makes it from a tier 3 or 4 to a tier 3 or 2 deck, but very, very impactful as far as things go. Vengeance, very impactful. This, not very impactful. This, very, very impactful. So overall, Bandle City definitely got hit across the board. And it's not even just like the Mayor decks, right? This is every deck that runs hidden pathways. Every Bandle City deck card or deck wants to run hidden pathways. And now being a 4 mana card instead of a 3 is a huge impact. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the changes, I think. I'm surprised that I really thought they're going to be buffing a little bit more overall, but it's a good start to the new year, so I'm really happy to see how the meta shakes. We'll be back later this week probably with just another video on what decks are actually good and playable, but this is just a very initial reaction to the patch notes. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me guys know what you would have liked to get buffed, because I had a few on mind as well. So leave them down in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out, guys.